Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a champion guide for Skartorsis, so let's get into it. Alrighty, let's fire up the champion index. We're going to go to the Undead Hordes, and then the Force Affinity Support Legendary up here towards the top left is going to be Skartorsis. Now, for about 6 months, I called him Skartorsis because I come from the StarCraft community, and one of the most well-known casters for professional matches goes by Artosis. So I've said that name thousands of times in my life, so I just kind of read that as Skartorsis, but it's actually got an R in there, and it is Skartorsis. Now, I will pull up the infographic that I have for Skartorsis. It is going to be down in the vid description. It's going to show the masteries that I have on the champion you're going to see in the video, but as always, remember to only use that as a template and don't ever blindly copy masteries, but these ones are going to be pretty generally useful and good for Skartorsis in my opinion. But the infographic is just a good source to kind of get the general breakdown of a champion, their grades, what sets I would recommend on them. You can see that he takes 11 legendary books to max out and kind of some stat priority and stuff like that. So I'll put that away. That's down in the vid description, and let's dive into the kit here. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is always look at the base stats. The 109 base speed, excellent. I love that. Anytime the base speed's over 100, it's a good thing. It makes it a lot easier to get them to speed thresholds you want them to reach. The 0 base accuracy is a little bit brutal, so tough to get good accuracy on him, which is needed for the A1 if you want to get value out of that. But we can see a really good base defense and a really good base HP. So it's going to be really easy to get him to scale well and be tanky in defensive setups. You can see here that his abilities scale their damage based on attack, but his base attack is horrible at 859. You don't want to be building Skartorsis as a damage dealer. You don't even need to worry about getting attack on him. That is not his role. You're not going to be building him as some sort of speed campaign farmer or some sort of nuker in arena or some wave clearer in dungeons. That is not his role. Don't worry about his attack. Just get his speed, accuracy, defense, and HP to be up to a high threshold. And then for the A1, we're going to have an AoE. I love that. AoE A1s have so much utility. So anytime our A1 default ability attacks all enemies, I love that. And then on top of that, for Skartorsis, it's going to be a 30% chance that we can book up to 50 of stealing a random buff from each enemy. Not just removing, but stealing. It will take that buff and place it on himself. That's why we need high accuracy, because that is an insane A1. It's AoE buff stealing, which is absolutely ridiculous in any sort of a sustained fight. And it's got AoE, so anytime there's lots of enemies in a dungeon scenario where you're fighting 5 enemies, or in the arena when buffs are very common, you can sit there and steal them constantly off of your A1. That A1 is awesome. And then the A2 is going to be places a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies for 2 turns. You could book it to 3 turns. Now, this really doesn't scale well in the end game. Typically, in the end game, you're going to be building your damage dealers with 100% crit rate no matter what, so you're not going to get a whole lot of utility out of that. But it's a very good ability in the early game where you're going to get a lot of utility out of the attack buff and the crit rate to help you clear through content. That ability doesn't scale super well into the end game. But the A3, this is going to be a lot to go over, and we will do a deep dive. I'll show you some testing that I did to really dive in when I was preparing for this video to figure out exactly what this did. But it's going to be remove all debuffs from all allies. So it's going to be AoE cleanse. That's amazing. Then heal all allies and fill their turn meters. Now, the difference or the amount that it happens is going to be according to how many debuffs are cleansed from your allies. So the more debuffs that are on your allies that you remove, that you cleanse with this ability, the higher the amount that he's going to heal, and more importantly, in my opinion, the higher the amount he's going to boost the turn meter. But we will get into all of that here in a little bit. The speed aura is absolutely incredible. It's going to be dungeons of 33%. Remember, dungeons does not work for clan boss, and it's not going to work in the arena or faction wars. It's just going to be for Fire Knight, Ice Golem, Dragon, and the Potion Keeps, those types of dungeons. But it's still an amazing aura. 33% speed is a high number. In dungeons, we spend a lot of time in dungeons, so a very cool aura and a very cool kit. Now, this is usually where I would go pull up my Skartorsis and dive into the gearing process, but I want to take a moment to talk about this A3 and kind of show you some of the testing I did. So let me pull this up. We're gonna go right here, and this is gonna show the base effect that I took a screenshot before and after the turn meter boost, and then also when he removes 3 debuffs from allies. So what I was able to find out, these are not exact numbers, this is just based on my testing, and I had to kind of look at it and try to figure it out as best I could. So these numbers may be slightly off, but I think they're pretty close. So what I think is the case is with this A3, if he does it and cleanses nothing, like if there's no debuffs on your allies, the base effect is a 10% turn meter boost. And then he's going to do an additional 10% for each debuff that he cleanses. So you can see here in this screenshot, he's going to be cleansing the 3 debuffs, the weaken and the 2 poisons, and then we can see the turn meter boosted about 40%. So we get the base effect of the 10%, and then 10, 10, and 10, which adds up to 40. I think that's right. Feel free to test it on your own and correct me if I'm wrong, but in my testing, it looks like the base turn meter boost is 10%, and according to that, it's going to be about another 10% for each debuff that he cleanses. So if you're cleansing 3, 4 debuffs, this can be really good. So an ability like this is going to be insane in the arena, especially in defense setups where you kind of absorb the enemy team, they place some debuffs and stuff, and then not only does he cleanse them all, but he does some healing and some turn meter boosting. So very cool. And I will also show you this effect in action. If we go right here, I'll leave that popped up there, and I put it in slow motion to kind of show you. This is the screenshot that I use. You can see the weaken and the 2 poisons on the Sir Nicholas down there on the bottom right. You can see the turn meter kind of jump up, and then he cleanses. So it jumps and cleanse. Right here, the turn meter jumps and then cleanse. So I wanted to get kind of a slow motion screenshot where you can see the most important utility of that A3 kind of in action. Unfortunately, when I did this, the Sir Nick was kind of full health, but you can see the heal on himself actually healed him up to full health. So it was a pretty significant heal based off of just the little bit of a cleansing that he did there. So you can get good healing, good turn meter boosting, and AoE cleanse on that A3. So I think it's a pretty cool A3. I'm doing stuff all over the place here. Let me get this stuff put away here. All right, there we go. I've got my life sorted out. But yeah, wanted to show that to you. I thought it'd be kind of cool to see that in slow motion. And now let's pull up my Skartorsis and we'll kind of talk about the gearing process and everything that goes into him. Okay, so you'll see here, I've got mine in Relentless plus Speed. We want our Skartorsis to have pretty good speed, especially if we're cranking out all of those A1s and removing a bunch of debuffs as often as possible. And to go first, in case the enemies stun us, we can go ahead and cleanse those debuffs and then be able to go in the arena. So speed going to be a good start on him. You don't have to put him in Relentless. I wouldn't say Relentless is like the god tier most optimal set on him. I had a good set of Relentless lying around, so I put him in it for this video and to help use him in Faction Wars so that I could help kind of clear some of those later stages. I put him in Relentless, but don't feel like you have to get him in Relentless or anything. Just get him in good speed, good accuracy, and good toughness. I'll show you kind of what I did here. Banner, you're almost always going to want accuracy. Stealing those debuffs is going to be a lot of his value, so I recommend getting really good accuracy on him. And then we're just looking for speed and sustain, basically, besides accuracy. Defense is going to be a good base stat amulet on him. I think it's on a lot of these champions that have over 20,000 HP, typically they have lower defense scores. That's actually not the case with Skartorsis. So you can probably get your defense in other areas because he actually does scale with defense. So you probably just want to go the opposite of your chest. If you're using an HP percent chest, you're probably going to want to go with a defense amulet and a defense ring. If you're using a defense percent chest, you're probably going to want to go with an HP amulet and an HP ring. So that kind of covers that. The boots, we're typically going to go the speed route on his boots. I showed you the chest. You can use either HP or defense. This chest was a fat rip, but hey, it's a 6-star HP roll that had speed and defense on it, so I wanted to use it on somebody, so Skartorsis gets it. For gloves, again, you can go either HP or defense, and then your best blend of speed, toughness, and accuracy on the substats. The top row is a lot easier. Again, you're just looking for accuracy, speed, and toughness, but I'll show you mine just in case you're curious. Then to dive into the masteries, I will show you the ones that I went with. You can make a case for a few different masteries. I like the Eagle Eye because I want to be able to use them in the arena, especially with 3v3 coming out. I need a lot of champions that are ready to fight in the arena. So I want his accuracy to be good and super impactful in terms of constantly stealing buffs. So I went with Eagle Eye. If you're not going to be prioritizing him in the arena, you could probably go a different route and try something out. But this is the route I went, and I'll leave this up for like 5 seconds if you want an opportunity to pause it and kind of take a look. But I do have it down in the infographic in the vid description if you want to be able to pop it up and take a look at the masteries on your own time and kind of have it there while you're building your Skartorsis. Then I like to touch on the booking process. Gosh, you know, he is probably a champion that's going to take a lot of books if you want to get the most potential out of him. Now, probably not super necessary to get the cooldowns and the healing on this. You don't really need a whole lot of books on this rebirth ability, especially if your main utility of him is going to be in the arena, because most of your arena fights aren't going to be going 6 and 7 turns long enough for this thing to come around again anyway. Usually the fight is mostly decided within the first 3 or 4 turns in arena. I know there's exceptions where you can get into 2 and 3 minute arena fights, but I would say not a super priority if you're really diligent on your books. You probably just want to do the A1 is probably the priority, honestly. If you're trying to book him on a super budget basis, he's going to use his A1 most of his turns, and stealing the buffs is a lot of his utility as a champion. So getting these 5 upgrades on the A1 is pretty important. And then if you get lucky and get that and you want to avoid the A2 and the A3 and build a super budget Skartorsis in terms of saving books as much as possible, that's the route I would go, is prioritizing the 10% buff chance on the A1. But he is worth booking because he'll be really good in 3v3 arena and a lot of setups. He can be super strong, and he's very good in dungeons. He's pretty much going to be usable everywhere except for the clan boss. And then just to kind of show him in action, I will show you one of the later stages of Faction Wars. I believe this is a stage 20 run that I recorded, and then I sped it up just a little bit so we can kind of get through it and save as much of your time as possible. But yeah, you can see the Skartorsis right here is going to come in and do a bunch of AoE cleanse on all those bombs. Boom, look at that. Removed all of those bombs. That cleanse is super impactful. Not only does it cleanse, but also boosts the turn meter and pumps out some heals. So obviously Skartorsis is going to be amazing for a level like this. Cleansing bombs is very important. So you can see how impactful that ability can be in a Faction Wars or arena scenario. You let them place a bunch of debuffs, and then boom, you wipe them away and you heal and boost turn meters. So Skartorsis is definitely a lot of utility. And then on top of that, you got him cranking out those A1s and constantly stripping buffs that he places on himself now. So he's really strong against enemies that are either going to place debuffs and he can cleanse them, or enemies that boost themselves. Or you can build them in a stun set because of his AoE A1, and he can have constant suppression, constantly stunning the enemy team. So lots of different routes you can go with Skartorsis, a very well-designed champion that can fill a bunch of different roles and be used in a bunch of different scenarios and built in a bunch of different ways to get value out of him. But that is kind of a stage 20 run there in the Undead Faction Wars, and Skartorsis is really good in terms of progressing your Undead faction team. So this run should finish here in about 2 seconds. There it is. And let's go ahead and get Skartorsis graded on all the different areas of the game. So let's fire up the reviews here. Recommended artifacts. That's actually not that bad. That's one of the best jobs they've done in game in terms of recommending artifacts. Lots of speed and sustain. Pretty good job there. All right, Spider's Den. He does have AoE. And he can cleanse the poisons on your tank if you're doing a cross-affinity tank strategy. And he gives you crit rate and attack. So, I mean, he's not garbage in the spider. I wouldn't say he's great, though. We'll give him a 3. 4.9 kind of surprises me that people rate him that high. They probably see the AoE A1 and think, oh, he'll be great at dealing with the spiders. But not really. I'd much rather use like a Bellower in a stun set or something would be much better in terms of 3 different abilities that are AoE to constantly stun those spiders. But anyway, let's go campaign. He's not going to be super good in the campaign. He might be okay in terms of 3-starring some certain content, but again, that's not really where he's going to shine. Arena offense, he'll be okay. I'll give him a 4. Arena defense down here, I would give him a 5 because he's much better in a team that kind of absorbs and a defense, arena defense seems to be a lot more like that. On offense, you're typically wanting to pick teams you can go first against and stuff. But so I'll give him a little bit of a bump on arena defense, but he's pretty good in the arena if you set him up right. Dragon Lair, yeah, I mean, with the cleanse of the stuff the dragon does to you and dealing with the waves and stuff, sure, I'll give him a 5. Okay, Minotaur, yeah, he can cleanse the hex and stuff and bring some utility. Okay, 5. He's also got a lot of speed he can bring in dungeons in terms of his aura. Clan boss, I have no idea why he has a 4. There's just no way he's a 4 in the clan boss. I'm gonna give him a 1, honestly. I can't think why you'd really want to use him there. Anything past being like an extreme beginner, I just don't see him having any utility there. Magic Keep, he's Force Affinity, and his A1 is going to be stealing buffs. So yeah, he's amazing in the Magic Keep. He's S tier there. Force Keep, he doesn't place decreased defense or anything. He's a neutral affinity. He'll be fine there. The Fire Knight Castle, he's not going to be super good. The AoE A1 is not going to be great. He'll be good for dealing with waves and stuff, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be super great there. Ice Golem, yeah, he'll be fine. The wave 2, removing the reflect damage, stealing that off of the enemies in wave 2, and cleansing debuffs and stuff, and yeah, he'll be all right there. The Void Keep, the cleanse of the poisons, super strong, so he's great there. Spirit Keep, he's a weak affinity, but he does steal buffs, which can be pretty handy against the Spirit Keep boss, so we'll give him a 4. And Faction Wars, he is great. We will give him a 5. So yeah, that kind of covers it for Skartorsis, a champion that I really like, and I think if you get him, he's definitely worth 6-starring, and at the very minimum, even if you're a super endgame player, you might not use him in a certain team, but he's definitely amazing for your Undead Faction Wars team, and he will definitely help you progress there. And then for anybody that's mid-game and even kind of early endgame, he's a champion you can get a lot of utility out of in lots of different dungeons, and now that 3v3 arena is out, you can even slot him in certain situations and certain fights in the arena, so I will put this away. And remember, down in the video description, I've got this infographic you can pull up and take a look at on your own time. So that's gonna do it, and as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.